Good morning. I'm Terry Jellised, your council president. Happy that you're here to receive this report. Folks who have been more heavily involved in the things I mentioned will give more detail in their reports, but first off, we survived pastor's sabbatical, and I think in some areas we also thrived. We stepped up and held down the fort. Our preschool closed. I think that was the biggest thing for all of us, is after so many years, realizing that it was time to let it go. We've started the family support group here with LaPria from Faithful But Not Fearless, or Fearful But Not something, but she's from Bread of Life Center, and she has been working with our young families, which is great. Our Bible study kind of went in a new direction this year after Bill retired following his 40-some years of service. The group is doing the Screw Tape Letters, which is a different take on right from wrong, good and bad. And the thing that I think is most visible here is the renovation of the narthex. That was the collaboration of a lot of folks, thanks to the generosity of the members of the congregation, and we're getting very close to having furniture in there. Take care. Looking forward to this year.
Good morning. I'm Mary Jo Edmondson, Vice President of Council with the responsibility of properties. It's been my honor to serve for the last 2 years in that position. 2025 has been a busy year for this church family and all that comes with our facility operations. Thanks to the addition of Heidi to the staff, we have made some new processes and procedures, and we continue to move forward. I can't say enough about those volunteers that we have. To name a few, and I'm sorry if I missed you, because you might have volunteered, Ron McCormick is always willing to help. Ken Breitweiser, Eric Erickson, and Matt Corbin do a lot of work around here, so thank them when you see them. The janitorial needs have been met by Justin Carbalar. Thanks, Justin, for all that you do. Most exciting, however, has been the new facility update of the narthex. Once we get furniture, according to our plans, that project will be completed for now. It was a big undertaking, but one that has enhanced the narthex 100-fold, in my opinion. Thanks to all that helped make that happen, the committee, the volunteers, our contractor in charge, Bob Edmondson, and especially you, the congregation, who stood behind this project. Much appreciated. Properties needs are ongoing. Please help where you can or when asked. As we look forward to 2026, we are always fine-tuning our processes and all the procedures for the maintenance of our beautiful facility. And help is always appreciated. Thanks for all you do to keep our facility looking as great as it does.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Chapman, and I've been on council now for 3 years, mostly taking the secretary role. And in that role, I've been working quite a bit to help get our data and information electronicized. But my main role on council has kind of been the gopher person, somebody to help out and with the various things that are going on at the church. After Lent last year, we studied Your Story, God's Story, and I worked with the youth to have them run interviews with some of the elders in our thing to learn how they found Jesus, what their thoughts on church were, and everything else. Talking with Pastor Scott, we discussed the needs of our young families to have some sort of a family support system in place. And so I had a friend who is running a family support group outside of Ascension, and she agreed to set up and run another family support group here just for our Ascension young families. I also worked with Greg and Paul Bakke to organize the men's retreat last October. We had a good turnout for that. Joanne Little stepped down from leading pub theology, and I'd love to thank her yet again for all of her many years of service in leading pub theology. I have chosen to pick that up and continue running pub theology to have exciting and meaningful discussions about modern day topics and how we live as Christians with those topics.
Hi, I'm Roger Linder. I'm the treasurer of Ascension Lutheran Church and the Church Council. I've been on the Church Council for 3 years, and I'm approaching now the end of my term, and I'll be turning my duties over to someone else. The role of the treasurer is more of someone who just sort of oversees things as opposed to doing really dirty work. We've got a bookkeeper that takes care of all of the financial things such as writing checks and whatever. The treasurer can sign checks, but doesn't have to actually pay the bills. The treasurer does take the reports that are part of all of the things like what money was spent in which accounts, how much money is available in the bank, and those reports are presented to the Finance Committee and to the Church Council. And then over the course of the year, those reports lead into the budget preparation, which is done by the Finance Committee for preparing it and then approved by the Church Council and ultimately by the congregation. There are a number of tools that have been developed over the last 3 years that help in those responsibilities. There are a number of spreadsheets that automatically do a lot of the calculations that normally a treasurer would have to do by hand. They're very effective in making those particular calculations easy to do, and also to be able to produce trends, charts that we can look at and get a sort of a visual picture. The Finance Committee meets once a month, the week before Church Council, and then in the following week, the Church Council meets and the Treasury reports are presented formally to the Church Council. And then each month, there is a newsletter article that is prepared so that the congregation has a summary information as well.
Hi, I'm Greg Imlay. I'm the council person whose mandate is to help us with our loving God. And I have to tell you, after doing this for a year now, I can see how much love we really have for God. The two parts of loving God that I'm going to focus on are worship and then Christian education or faith formation. And in terms of faith formation, I wanted to say, first of all, thank you to Bill Moyer for all his dedication after all these decades. And he stepped down last June. And in fact, we have folks who have stepped forward to take his place, as if anyone could do that. But luckily for us, we have screw tape letters being studied by a group of people led by Craig Bruick and Linda Lowndes. Mark Chapman has been leading a group of folks watching The Chosen, and it's been a very successful series of things to discuss and learn from and compare and contrast. So in terms of youth, we also are very concerned about faith formation, and we're lucky because we have 2 staff members who have been great in their continuance of help. That would be William Barker and Justin Caballard. In addition, I want to give a special shout out to Joanne Little for her constant and vigilant assistance with the kids in the Sunday school. In terms of worship, the highlight is that we have, by my count, over 50 people in our church who, in one way or another, assist with worship. And that includes everything from the ushers, acolytes, lectors, altar guild, technical, the sound, the music, yay, music. So everything about our worship is going well, thanks to the many, many volunteers of this church who have helped out. And for that, I want to thank Terry Jelliset, our president. In the beginning of 2025, she led a series of trainings on how to be a worship assistant, how to do the various tasks around the church. I want to thank also our paid staff, which would of course include my friend Andrea, who's behind the camera there. Andrea is our worship director and overall creative and technical person. Without her, I don't know what we would do. As far as pastors go, we're lucky to have Pastor Scott, but he was gone for six weeks last year. And we had our friend Bruce, Pastor Bruce, take over for him where he could. and he did a great job. And so we are so lucky to have Pastor Bruce, both as a member and as an occasional stand-in pastor as well. And for that, I want to thank you all very much for your attention and turn this over to the next person in our video.
Hello, I'm Doreen Nichols, your council member representing Loving the Community. In 2025, our congregation showed love for the community in a variety of ways. We continued our monthly participation at Loaves and Fishes. Every first Wednesday of the month, 5 to 7 volunteers showed up here at the church and carpooled to Sacramento to Loaves and Fishes, where they served food to the homeless. We also continued to do the Sunrise Christian Food Ministry, and where volunteers would sort food, bag food, and distribute food to members of the community who are food insecure. Last May, we were able to join in on the big day of service. And for our part, we had a group of us go to an adult care facility, a senior care facility here in Citrus Heights, where we mingled with the residents. So the residents loved seeing the kids. In August, we hosted National Night Out for the second time, and that was a success. We worked together with the neighborhood association. There was a lot of food, fun, activities, face painting. We had a lot of music. Our resident DJ, Brian, even had some of us out there doing the Macarena. In November, we hosted a harvest festival. We were hoping to have more of residents in our neighborhood attend, but we still had a good time, and it was fun for everybody who attended. The last thing I would like to say is a big thank you to Rich and Dottie Peterson for their continued hard work and dedication that they put in to give us our Blessing Bag Sundays. They put a lot of effort into that, and they have the congregation involved, and it's so wonderful to be a part of that. Thank you for loving our community.
What a year it has been. Pretty amazing to think that a year ago I was recording this video and thinking about and talking about plans for an upcoming sabbatical, and here we are a year later, and those plans came to fruition. I was able to spend 12 weeks away, and you survived, I survived, and I've actually been back for longer now than I was away, and I can honestly say it is good to be back. One of the things that strikes me in preparing for the sabbatical and being on it and coming back is how much time and energy it takes to prepare for something and then to experience it. And oftentimes we don't spend enough time looking back and reflecting and giving thanks for what we've done. And I want to give thanks to all of you for helping to make my sabbatical happen this year. Those who gave financially, and your efforts or to include funding for the sabbatical in the budget, those who stepped up and worked harder, for Pastor Bruce for being here during that time to provide support to the congregation and to the staff, for Andrea and Heidi and Vicki who had to suffer through 12 weeks of me not being in the office. I feel really bad for them, and I've worked really hard to make it up to them since I have been back. But truly, it is good to be back. One of the things on the sabbatical, I went on the Camino, and on the Camino, when we began, they gave us this card to get stamps for places we went to document the journey. And when that journey began, this was empty, and I bring it back not entirely full. It had been more full if I had walked all 500 miles instead of just 72. But it allows me to look back and reflect on the things that occurred in the places where I got the stamps. Just like this video allows me and us to look back on the year that we've had. This year, I went to a theological conference at North Park Seminary, where I attended seminary last February. And it was my first time to return to the campus since we actually moved from Connecticut, and it was good to be back on campus and to be gathered with some faculty members who I knew. Also, this last year during Lent, we focused on God's story, our story, and really encouraged us to each think about our own story and how it relates to God's story, how God's story impacts our story. And it was pretty amazing to see some of the things that came out of that. We had StoryCorps, which was featured in the God Story, Our Story. We recorded some audio of people telling their story to some of our youth. Cherie Hubbs was inspired by the idea of telling her story and shared with us after Easter the butterfly story and how that related to her story, and really gave testimony and worship on a Sunday morning, which was quite impactful. And those are things that people just felt led to share with the congregation. And I think that's really, I took a lot of encouragement from that, and other things that have happened this year where people have seen a need and felt the Spirit prompting them. Mark Chapman worked with our young families to help create a family support group that now is meeting monthly with a woman from the community who's providing them with support. We had, while I was on sabbatical, we had a piano concert for Justin Nash, our musician here. Again, that came as an idea from somebody in the congregation, and we moved forward. And even just this last Saturday, a crochet class that had 20 people, intergenerational gathering of folks learning to crochet. There's countless other examples of things where people have had ideas and we've been able to help bring them to fruition. And that's my encouragement from this year and looking in the year ahead, is that as you have ideas, ministry ideas, that you bring them forward, that you bring them to myself as pastor or the staff or to the council, and we can support you in helping to bring those things to fruition, make those things happen. This year we celebrated Susie's time on the staff here and gave thanks for that. And we're grateful that she's still a part of this community, and continue to pray for her health. But it was, the time it was clear that she was unable to meet the demands of working full time. And so we had a celebration for her, and continue to miss her in the office, but are grateful to see her in worship. We had the good fortune of finding and hiring Heidi Samudio to be our secretary, and she stepped in June, about 5 or 6 weeks before I left for sabbatical, and now it's hard to imagine her not being here. It's great to have her here on Sunday mornings, a support to me certainly, but I think to all of us, where she's able to interact with all of the worshipers and to deal with things that you may not have a chance to come to the church office during the week or make a phone call. And that has, I think, been a great change and an improvement for us. We continue to give thanks for the time that Terry Jellis had spent volunteering here and helping us bridge that gap while Susie was sick, and when she left, and we were able to hire Heidi, and Terry left a permanent mark on us in a good way, and we are continue to be grateful for that. So there's been a lot to celebrate this year, but probably the most difficult part of the year was making the decision to close the preschool when our enrollment declined and our projections for the fall were clearly not enough of an enrollment to support having the preschool and daycare open. It is still quiet around here, quieter than we're used to, and we certainly miss the staff and the kids being here, and they're seeing their parents every day as well. So I encourage you to continue to pray for the preschool staff as they continue to try and figure out, make those transitions to what's next for them. And obviously we have before us a time of discernment, prayerful discernment, as we figure out what is next for us. And that really leads us to pointing to the future. We've announced that this will be a year of discernment. And while the grief of the preschool closing has not fully, wrapped up, I mean, grief is a process, and I think we'll continue to experience that. But I think it's time for us to begin to have conversations about what might be next. And we've talked about that, and as we go into Lent this year, we're preparing ourselves to be able to have difficult conversations and holding up the relational covenant to then prepare us to really dig into what may be next for us as a congregation. There's a bird in Africa. It's called Sankofa. It's a bird that, for whatever reason, actually flies forward while actually looking back, and it's used oftentimes to encourage us as we move forward to not forget to look back as well. And that's my hope for us this year, that as we move forward, that we continue to look back to our history, to the foundation that has been established by those who have served here over these past many decades, but also acknowledging that we are also moving forward. We want to honor the past and prepare us for what, and allow ourselves to be open to what God is preparing us for in the future. Much like this, they call it a credential, much like this credential was blank when I began the Camino, and I didn't know what it was going to be like to get the stamps along the way. I didn't know what the stamps were going to look like. I didn't know what the journey might look like or would hold. But along the way, I was blessed in surprising ways. Sometimes it was hard, but yet I was blessed by the experience, and finally arriving at the cathedral in Santiago de Compostela. So as we look towards this year, I want us to do so maybe with some trepidation, but also with some certainty that if we are attentive to God's leading along the way, that God will continue to guide us into the direction God has for us. And just to wrap up, I promised that I was going to be shorter this year than last year, and I'm sure I have been. I mean, it just feels like it's gone by very quickly to me. I do want to thank again the staff and the support that I received from the church council and the congregation as well. But most importantly, thank Robin for all that she puts up with, and my mom as well, who gets to suffer through being an example in sermons here and there. I am truly grateful to continue to have the pleasure of serving as your pastor, and I look forward to what this year of discernment might bring. Take care.